What's up, guys? This is D2 and Green from the Samurai Gamers team. We are the head writers, and today we're going to go over the latest patch that's going to come to Tencent servers on October 18th, which is just a few days from now. And we've done these patch videos in the past, but we missed the last one because there was just too big of a break between the Taiwan patch and the actual patch, and there's just too much chatter going on between, so by that time it was kind of a little bit late. But we were doing it for this one, and this particular patch comprises of two patches on the Taiwan server from the 28th of September and the 11th of September. So there will be a few things to go over, and we provided our notes on those particular patches, and this article that we wrote just has our thoughts, or basically an update on what has happened on these servers that have already been affected by these patches. So just kind of give you a general idea or a glimpse into what the Tencent servers will be going through and what kind of meta changes will be occurring. Alright, let's just start with the game changes, get through that really quick. Clone clash and all the little bug fixes and quality of life improvements, etc. What do you think about these additions?
They all seemed pretty good, most of them fairly minor. The shiniest was, of course, the Clone Clash mode that's being introduced, and I'm most excited to see how that goes. I obviously don't think it's going to be too serious of a game mode, but it can be very amusing to do some things. If nothing else, I look forward to raining down 5 different Lumia ults on people.
Or just 5 butterflies getting resets and they're just being mayhem.
Glung, 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 glung. Reset. Glung, 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 glung. Reset.
Anyway, by the way, so Green is at our Japanese office, so if you hear random Japanese people speaking in the background, that's what that is. Anyway, anything else we want to talk about? I'm kind of interested in getting potentially some clutter out of my backpack since we can sell stuff. The recommended lanes for the heroes, I don't know if that's really that helpful.
The paranoid part of me is looking forward to being able to hide my combat history.
Oh, actually, one good thing is that for ranked games in Diamond and above, if you guys didn't know, they show your most recently used heroes, your last 3, and now they'll only show your ranked, the heroes used in ranked, because it was really stupid if I tried a hero in casual and was terrible with that hero, but it showed that as my most recently used hero, and I'm like, no, I can't play that. I'm not playing that in this game. It was very deceiving, and it didn't help when we're trying to pick heroes.
Yeah, my casual pool is way bigger than my ranked pool, so that could cause problem.
Oh, another thing actually that is nice is well, first of all, the tower actually gets more resistance now, so it's harder to kill the towers, which I know some people just love killing towers when there's no minions there, but yeah, it's just making that harder, making it so that you need basically minions to be there unless it's super duper low is pretty important. But more importantly, I can't really find this at the moment, but above the towers there's actually indication now where there's like a shield above the tower when there's no minions, and that makes it really easy to know when it has decreased resistance or not, and should help newer players be like, what is that shield? Oh, the shield went away, maybe I can attack, instead of just dying under the tower. It's a nice visual effect. You're like, I'm over it. Anyway.
Well, I won't normally notice, I think, because I'm paying so close attention to the minions.
Oh, we got a pro here. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, step it up, casuals.
It is a nice visual effect, though, in any case. All right, so let's go on to talking about the item changes. And first off, we have the gloves, Clavis Sancte, Devil's Handshake, and Slick Sting. All of the crit items outside of both Slaughter. And they've all had their price reduced to compensate for the Soul Reaver nerf, to Marksman at least, which we'll go over in a moment. So this is actually really nice for side lane Marksman. because they get crit a lot quicker. And part of the problem with building crit items is until you got the final crit item, it just was a little bit lackluster, right? Because you weren't getting you get a gloves and it costs you 500 and you're only getting 12%, so you just kind of hope that you get it off. And now it's a lot cheaper, particularly for Clavis Sancti, which is 130 cheaper. I mean, if you go for Devil's Handshake or Slick Sting now, they're super cheap. They're sub 2,000. So really nice in order to be able to get that a lot quicker here.
I do think it's curious that Clavis Sancti was reduced in price the most, especially considering it is like the most valuable of the critical items. While I think it would have been a nice time to maybe lower Devil's Handshake more when it is the least valuable of the critical items, to try and give it more of a situational spot. But that does not seem to be the case.
We are seeing a little bit more Devil's Handshake on heroes like Slims, where they could really use the massive amount of attack speed, and they don't really care about they just buy war boots and hope their team protects them. Although this is watching a lot of pro games, so maybe I'm overstating it because people in ladder can't rely on their teammates as much. But yeah, they're going for that over the Slick Sting, which provides that resistance, or the CC immunity, as it were. Or sorry, yeah, just resistance. But yeah, it's very curious. I suppose they just want, even though Clavis Sancti is already the go-to, I suppose they just want to throw Marksman a bone and be able to get there, because it's because since they want to promote sideline marksman, it's like, all right, here, we're gonna make it a lot easier for you. Just get that Clavis Sancti, and
you have no excuse.
Yeah, go on the sideline. Go back to your sideline and stop being in the jungle. But yeah, it would have been funny though to give Devil's Handshake the Blitzblade treatment and just make it super cheap. It's like, hey, power spike, nice.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on. Ring of the Fiend and Purifying Bracers were both from the September 11th patch on Taiwan. And these were just needed. It was just not good. So Eye of the Fiend range increased. It was just so short. I actually tried playing Ring of the Fiend a couple times, especially with Pyrrha, because I figured that I needed the heal for my teammates faster, so I valued the CDR above the armor. Ended up not being really worth most of the time, but when they're not targeting you, it's really nice to be able to save your teammates. But this passive it was absolutely terrible. And at least now you can maybe see people a little bit farther away.
Yeah, this one, I don't see why it's only a single unit. I would like to see it towards all units in range, because it's such a limited time, and most of the time you're going to whiff the cast, since you're using it to check things, that there's not a huge reason to make it only one unit.
Yeah. Especially because Lindis has like a way better ability just built into her kit. And it's not even that ability by itself. Like, she gets other stuff out of that ability as well. So that's at least better, and it's at least useful if you want to go the CDR route and just go straight for that and Aegis, and then you have your CDR covered. All right, let's move on to Purifying Bracers. Now, water items really aren't selected, but having this made better was certainly necessary, because the range was extremely small, and you'd always get it off on the wrong person because you weren't really in range. And just more survivability all around. You go 30%, higher duration for the movement speed, and lower cooldown, because the cooldown was just, you didn't even really want to use it. And that was an extra reason why not to pick Purifying Bracers, because you'd rather just have the shield from Essence of the Wind, which I'd argue you still want, but at least it's slightly more of a conversation now.
Yeah, and it was kind of a shame with the interesting effects they had when Essence of the Wind just outclassed them all so easily. It is nice to see this brought up a bit more, at least get close. 60 seconds still seems rather high, especially since that 2 or 3 times even some of the longer ultimates in the game.
Right. Well, I think the only way that water items are going to see more play, and especially in high level or pro play, is to give the passive way more gold to the person next to you. Because as it stands, it's just like this tiny pittance worth of gold. And you basically give your ally way more gold just staying away and getting a wind item. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alright, so let's move on. Hunter's crossbow is now a kukri. Used to be we translate it as hunter's knife, which is what it was called on the Taiwan patch notes, but kukri. Do you know what a kukri is? I have no idea what a kukri is.
It's a type of knife, I believe. I want to say it's from Australia, but that's mostly because the sniper in Team Fortress 2 used one. I believe it's made for skinning, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm not a big knife aficionado.
Oh, so you skin the monsters? That's that's
To get the
interesting.
experience from out from under their skin.
Oh god. Oh no, having nightmares about the monkey now. The wild monkey. Anyway, so that's cool. Let's move on. So, Scorching Wind and Soul Reaver received pretty big changes all put together. So, Firestorm, I think I did a small error in the translation. I had +1 per level when it's actually +1 per 3 levels, but you know, it's not that big of a difference. The bigger thing is that ranged heroes used to only get 3/4 of the bonus and benefit put together is what you get benefit, and now they get the full benefit, which is needed because now marksman can't use Soul Reaver, and the reason why is because they got a pretty big attack damage nerf, but in return melee heroes get a 3-second buff anytime they damage a hero. And damaging a hero is important because you don't have to like play around hitting minions and the such. So, yeah, we've seen Violets just build Mr. Stabby in pro matches, but that makes it awkward because in the late game, when you're trying to burst down a Dark Slayer or an Abyssal Dragon, you can't burst it down quickly enough if you sold your jungle item, and it makes things awkward. But other than Violet, every single marksman has made the switch to a Scorching Wind on other servers and have been fine. So this is kind of a very targeted nerf to Violet, which is funny because it's an entire item.
It does throw a wrench into my favored Rourke jungle build because I always use Soul Reaver on him. But outside of that, it will be interesting. This is obviously reactionary to marksman dominating the jungle. The timed... Okay, it does say on hero. The fact that it was it's the next after a time limit seems a bit odd because it could punish you for attacking or like hitting a gank and then not waiting a bit before going back in.
Right.
But overall, I think it could be good. They don't seem to fully know what to do with Soul Reaver, though, because they keep changing it all over the place.
I think they were kind of fine with it. It's just that Violet was too strong. And no matter what they did, they would either have to nerf her to the ground, which they don't like doing, or they would have to nerf Soul Reaver, right? And I think they did the right thing here. Because Violet, think about it, if you nerf her tactical fire enough, she's just like not a hero anymore.
Yeah.
So, I think this is fine. And we've seen a lot less Violet, even though she's still going to be good on the ladder, and there's still kind of a niche place for her. I think this is overall fine.
Yeah. It's something that I'll just have to watch to look at. Lowering its base attack damage and changing the... Well, I obviously don't know how the passive works on the field, so we'll need to see how it goes.
Well, I did some testing, and so the first attack doesn't get the benefit from the 7% damage, 7% AD. I believe the 7% damage is for everything, including any other things you have, but it's it's very, very powerful, especially if you're like on a crick neck or something where that extra 7% is a lot.
Oh yeah.
So, in any case, that is pretty interesting. It means you're going to be building Soul Weaver on a lot more heroes potentially because of that nice burst that you get out of it for melee heroes. And we'll see who decides to build that going forward. Could be good for something like maybe a Xannis comeback. All right.
Oh yeah, I can see that's doing a lot of damage with Xannis.
All right, moving on. So Loki's Curse and Bareth's Agony, and full disclosure, I think that this wasn't on the Taiwan patch notes before, and they just kind of added it after the fact. So I added it to our previous article and added my thoughts there as well. Basically, it's just better. Loki's Curse. First of all, Trick Blade just makes sense because they have very similar passives. And so, if you guys don't know, Trick Blade is the tier 2 item that builds up to Apocalypse and provides a little bit of bonus damage after an ability. So does Loki's Curse, so that makes sense. And they got rid of Ring of Vitality, they got rid of the extra HP, which was bizarre in the first place. Why are you giving HP to a jungle mage? So, yeah, everything kind of better. Obviously, they had to take away some ability power for that extra cooldown speed, but overall, it's good. Especially because if you're jungling, you don't get Orb of the Magi. And if you don't get Orb of the Magi, you don't get the 10% cooldown speed, so it's good.
Yeah, it seems good.
Sorry, I'm taking the words out of your mouth.
I don't have much to add. No, that's fine. It makes my job easy.
And then Bareth's Agony, it was just too good. Too ubiquitous. Like, everyone had a place for it, no matter who they were, as long as they were a person that dealt magic damage. You built Bareth's Agony, and it was just winning the fight over the Aegis too hard, and the Aegis was already an extremely good item, so that should kind of tell you where it was at. So they lowered the armor, didn't kill it, should be still fine.
Yeah, 225 armor is still quite a bit. Just a bit of a margin nerf, indirect margin nerf.
Yeah. Alright, let's go on to the hero changes. So the Flash is no longer the fastest man on the battlefield. I guess they wanted to mirror the DC comics where he's slower than Superman or something. I don't know. Anyway.
And Batman.
Right, no, but I meant in like the DC thing. Because for some, isn't he like slower than Superman in like, or is that not true? Or are they like similar speed?
I have absolutely no idea.
Okay, anyway, my co-caster on these things has told me that. Anyway, the point is, he's not the fastest in the game, which is bizarre. I feel like they could nerf him elsewhere. In order, and not nerf his movement speed.
The main thing here is that he had the 400 movement speed, and then you had Preda, whose entire passive is he has 400 movement speed.
That's not
so
Flash's fault.
I think now they can be like, look, Preda's still the fastest mage.
That's not the Flash's fault.
I mean, that's true. Preda just needs a passive, but this was easier.
Right, but that's the Flash's identity as well. So, I don't know. Yeah, just change Preda's passive. You don't have to mess with the Flash. It just seems weird. Like, why would you? I think the devs don't really care about the lore. They're just like, how can we nerf him? Let's nerf his movement speed without thinking about why he is who he is.
Fastest man alive. How can we nerf him?
Yeah,
let's make him less fast.
The devs in Teamy group in China weren't really looking. They have no idea. They don't read DC comics. They're like, why does this guy have 400 movement speed? Isn't that a lot? he has a really long dash, right? Isn't he? Isn't that too much? And
I just got these facts from America. I just said fast Flash. Okay. 380 is still very fast.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just weird. They could have nerfed him another way. This makes me feel sad. Anyway, apart from that, magic damage on the Cyclone went up, but the stun went down, and now there's a slow afterwards. So it's... Even though Flash could kill people with this, the benefit of it as a team fight like control effect was really strong, and so this feels like a tiny nerf overall, because Flash was kind of like just a poke hero. You jump in, you mock punch, you do your cyclone and then you jump out. And whoever you didn't kill, if you weren't under a tower, your team just wipes them up if they get sucked in. So now maybe they can get away a little bit faster.
A little less oppressive.
Yeah, even though the 100 damage isn't there. Alright, anyway, not that big of a change. Let's go to Azzen'Ka. Now this change came from September 11th on the Taiwan patch, so it's been around there for a while. Haven't really seen any Azzen'Kas in pro matches, so it hasn't been that big of a change. But it is nice. It's really nice because they've finally taken away the clunky passives of these mages, and we'll get to some more later. So now the duration of the stacks are 6 seconds rather than 5, and they apply immediately. And yeah, before you couldn't apply stacks for 2 seconds after the first one, which made very little sense. So yeah, be careful going against Azzen'Ka. I would imagine that previously when people went against Azzen'Ka, they didn't realize what his passive was if they never played him. Like wait, what do you mean petrify? What does that mean? And it's very much like
stun, but a different word.
Yeah, it's very much like Diao-chan's freeze, but now you can actually get someone petrified after level 2. You just shoot a dust devil. It hits the person, hits the wave, hits the person again, and then you do a sand punch, and they're petrified, which is way easier than before. Before it was they'd have to try to get petrified by level 2 if that was the case before. So now he's less clunky. That's good.
Always good to see other mages raising up.
I mean, and the thing is, if he's going to be like a very heavy control mage, then at least give him some control, right? Since he's super slow. So it makes him better, makes him more useful. All right, moving on. Gilder. So this is so weird. This is also from the September 11th patch, I believe. And he used to have a shield, and then they took away the shield, and then he was garbage, and now they're giving him the shield. I'm assuming the shield isn't... I mean, he already had a shield, but now it's bigger, and now he gets a shield whenever he uses his passive, which used to be the case anyway. So, now he's slightly better, but still not very good.
You'll at least be able to take a bit more damage, put that tank label to use.
Yeah. And that combined with the fact that he has more damage in his base scaling means that he can actually be like the hybrid that he was meant to be, right? He can actually deal damage while building tanky, which is what you want. Speaking of like Malik or whatever. Okay, Tulin. They moved his movement speed back up by 10.
Yeah, boy.
They nerfed it by 20 earlier. They moved it back up 10. He was starting to fall down the mage like rankings a bit, and then they gave him a nerf, or they gave him a nerf as it was happening, and they're like, "Oh, oops," and so they gave it back. Yeah, or not all the way back, but part of the way back. So
he did feel really slow. With a 340 movement speed, especially since he needs to be going between the lanes, and you need to save your jumps for during fights so that you can get your passive up. And it was always just really frustrating to watch him crawl along the river to get to a lane.
I'm coming, I swear. And
I'm gonna get there.
And if people don't know, base movement speed affects all of the percentage-based movement speed buffers later on. Like, I guess Tulin doesn't really buy those. If he bought like,
it's like
Frosties.
that attack speed Tulin.
Well, he could buy Frosties, I suppose. Wouldn't really buy Zweihander, but yeah. Anyway, let's move on to our best friend, Ignis.
Boy, I love that.
All right, so they went all in on the harass sustain style, but this time they did it effectively. Because before it used to be like, oh, he got this tiny little buff on his thing, and then but
With
we also
3 nerfs along the way.
Yeah, and we nerfed his ult again, by the way. This time, they did again nerf the damage, but in return, he got a lot. So, HP plus 15 per level. That's quite a bit. That's basically an extra item over the course of the game. Armor plus, what is that, 4 per level, which again, very nice. And, okay, Sacred Flame. Mark of the Flame now refreshes Fire Crash cooldown on the hit. That is really good. Also, there's no activation delay. So if you didn't know, before, you had to hit someone with a thing, and then the mark would come out a second later, which was very clunky. It was made very little sense because you couldn't chain your abilities together at all. You'd have to hit someone and then wait and then hit them again, and it made actually getting the benefits from your various abilities much, much harder. Now it's immediate, which is a massive buff, and on top of that, it refreshes the Fire Crash. And we were talking before we started recording, and the lack of delay is massive. Being able to immediately summon someone, or immediately gain health and shield, or immediately get the true damage on the ultimate is huge. And then you were arguing that close second, the cooldown refreshing is pretty huge as well.
Yeah, because like with Rain of Fire, you can hit them with that, they immediately get a mark. Hit them with the old Fire Crash, you get your shield, you get Fire Crash again, so the next time Rain of Fire hits them, you just smack them with another Fire Crash, and you're just throwing fireballs at them like it's no one's business. Yeah. Next thing you know, they're on the ground, pile of ashes, you're standing there feeling like $1,000,000, and you got an extra kill on your counter.
Yeah, I've been casting some of the GCS and RPL games on my Twitch channel. And by the way, check that out if you haven't. Doing just unofficial broadcasts over the main feeds. And after the new patch Ignis, it was just once they hit level 2, I saw Ignis just go up to, by the way, another pro player. Hit him with a Rain of Fire, and they got 3 Fire Crashes off, and they were chunked to half at level 2. And I was like, oh, it's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, just this alone, you can really bully people out of the lane. And not only that, they buffed, as you can see, Mark of the Flame duration from 2.5 seconds to 3 seconds. And the HP restored actually went up as well. And it goes up with ability power, which incentivizes you to build AP now. Ignis mains, please dudes, please stop building Frostcape and like, I don't know, all the other stuff that's Ignis mains build. Like, no, I had the most damage at the end of the game. It's like, yeah, because you didn't do anything the entire time. People just let you hit them. Anyway, so.
Do the shields stack from Fire Crash to where if you hit him with 2 really fast, you get double the shield, double the fun?
It doesn't say it doesn't stack. That's for sure.
I see. I'm seeing an all damage tank Ignis.
Yeah. Well, in any case, these changes right here make it so that he absolutely bullies people at the beginning of the game. And it allows you to build more damage towards the end of the game, which indirectly adds to your damage. Okay. So, Fire Crash. Ability cast time reduced by 0.2 seconds. That's really nice when you're trying to spam it out. Projectile width has increased by 50 units, which is half a meter in game if you're trying to think about it, the player's size. 200 units, by the way, is like melee range, so if you think about it that way. And the projectile length is increased by 100 units. So it's actually pretty big. If you're wondering what that means, by the way, it's not the actual width and length of your initial fireball. It's the splash after it hits something. And so if you hit like a tank in front, you can splash onto the back line much, much easier now and just hit multiple heroes and heal a ton. So it's really good. Even though it's less impressive when you think of it, or when your first thoughts of it, because at first I thought, oh my god, it's a big fat turd of a fireball, but no, the actual the actual fireball is the same size. It's just that the the splash afterward is bigger. So that's nice.
All right.
Yeah.
See, I thought it was just going to be easier to land.
Yeah. So the damage and the shield have both been reduced for obvious reasons, since you can spam them out all the time. Shield duration has gone down, as again you're going to be constantly doing that. So this is why I haven't seen it, by the way. It's because the shield duration is lower, so it's harder to get off. And the mana cost has gone down as well for obvious reasons. You're going to be spamming it out. Rain of Fire, cast time reduced. Holy Embers, cast time reduced. Everything feels better. Ignis can actually move. He feels like a young man again. And by the way, in the GCS, he is now one of the top mages. So there you go. That said, he is kind of the eye of the beholder hero in a sense, because in Thailand they weren't using him at all. He was 0% pick and ban. But just personally watching him, I think he's slightly overvalued in Taiwan, and I think that some of the teams have realized that, since they didn't always first ban him after a while. But he's going to be good, and I'm envisioning we're at least going to be putting him in tier 1, and upon further, like, no, if we study him some more, we might think about S as well. Just throwing that out there right now.
It'll be interesting to see.
Okay.
Like you said, it's nice to see mages go up after we had a period where it was like, if it's not Tulin, it's L'Oreal.
Yeah, if it's not Tulin, it's L'Oreal, and then L'Oreal fell out, and it's like, oh, I guess it's literally just Liliana and Flash, and that was it.
Yeah, so seeing lots of mages always good.
All right, sorry about the background noise. Anyway,
You better be.
I'm not even there. Okay. Anyway, let's move on to Alistair. So, Alistair he basically became a ranged version of Arum. Because his magic prison, not only are there no breaks in between, which didn't make any sense in the first place, but it can't be purified and the duration can't be lowered by resistance. So good luck, you're stuck there for 2.5 seconds, whether you like it or not. The one thing that can cancel it is stunning Alistair. So that can get rid of it. So if you see your ally stuck in a magic prison, don't try to purify it, just stun Alistair.
That's right. It still has all the weaknesses of a channeled ability, unlike cheaters like Natalia.
Yeah, or like Arum or something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully, I've been seeing him a bit more frequently recently, so hopefully this will make him an even more desirable pick.
Alright, yeah. The one thing with Alistair, though, is he doesn't still have the greatest damage, and he has to stand there to use his ult. He's very good as kind of like a support in the mid, but he can't really be a support by himself, as you can see, as you saw in the Valor series when ALG tried to do that. They still won because they're allegiance, but still, it was a struggle. So if you're picking Alistair, he's still kind of mid, but you need some sort of damage to complement it. Like maybe your support is a net, for instance. So you kind of supplement the damage that way. All right, let's move on to Vera. This was, again, the September 11th change, so it's been there for a while. Movement speed went up, that's needed. Mesmerize went up, needed. And Infernal Bounce went up, needed. So this is really important because she was a single target nuker, and not being able to get close to people was a problem.
Yeah, especially since she really needs to be able to get only with her opponent, even if there's minions near. Never mind. It priorities heroes. I haven't used Vera in a while, but you have to get in a very good position to where your bats are only going towards that one person. So being able to stand a bit further away can help isolate them.
I feel like Vera's never going to be that great of a hero, because the only way she's going to be good is if she's overpowered. Because if you get her to the point where she's just nuking people, well, she can already kind of nuke people, but if you get to the point where she, no matter, like, no questions asked, will kill someone one-on-one, then she's too powerful. But if she's not that, then she can't do damage into a group. So she's always just going to be in a spot where it's just not worth picking her, just based on her kit. But they've been trying.
I don't know. I think they could modify her kit a bit to make her a bit more valuable. Like, for example, if they made Inferno Bats bounce similar to Jinnar's thing, but they do less damage after their first bounce.
Right.
That would make it to where she did better in team fights.
Well, that's kind of what I meant. They need to change her kit in some way or rework her kit in some way.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise, she's not going to be as powerful. All right. Moving on to L'Oreal. So before it used to be 90% slow, and then they nerfed it to 50%, and then they're like, well, she's not good anymore, so let's split the difference, and now it's 50 to 90%, which increases it with hero level. Still makes her
very nice.
It still makes her a late game hero. More, it still kind of polarizes her more. She's less good in the early game, better in the late game. It helps her mid game, which is nice. So having, you know, a 70% slow by the time you hit level 7 or 8, and you're just trying to hit your first power spike with your third item or something like that, then that might be a situation where, okay, she gets to a point where she can be more useful than she was. Whereas before, if you're hitting your third item, she's not quite good enough to start affecting the game. So,
especially with how things are pushing towards like getting done really fast, she had trouble getting to her power spike before the game ended.
Yeah, exactly. So she needs to get there quicker so that she can affect the team fights. All right, let's move on. Diao-chan. So half of Diao-chan's changes were September 11th, and that was the shortening of the cast time, which in testing we found was about 1/4 of a second. So it went from about 1/2 of a second to 1/4 of a second, which is nice, and it was very annoying to have to wait there before she used her stuff, especially because Diamond Dust already has a delay built in. So it was a cast delay, and then you'd see the circle on the ground, and then they'd have to get caught in it. So you had to have kind of crazy anticipatory skills as Diao-chan. Then, on top of that, they buffed the damage on her. They buffed the base damage on Chilling Frost, which is nice not only for the early game, but it's almost always going to be a nerf unless you've built more than 1500 AP. So she just gets a straight damage buff overall, and it doesn't need to be even due to your build, right? And on top of that, they increased the mark duration for Chilling Frost. If you don't know what the mark is, when you hit someone with Chilling Frost, it places a mark on them, and if you hit them again with another Chilling Frost, it roots them for a second. And the problem is that the mark duration was 5.5 seconds, and Chilling Frost cooldown is 5 seconds. So it's a very, very short window in trying to hit someone. Now you could lower that with cooldown reduction, but this makes it much easier at the beginning of the game. And toward the later stages of the game, it makes it a lot easier in things like team fights, which are more chaotic.
Yeah, it almost felt like that aspect of the ability was only there for the late game when playing her, since it was like, okay, you can pass it, get the bonus. Oh no, it's gone.
Yeah. And this makes it a lot easier for her to duel people in the beginning of the game, which makes a big difference, because if you can't outduel your counterpart, then you start losing last hits. Maybe they force you to go back, you lose even more experience, you can't rotate, and then your team falls behind, and then Diao-chan, she starts getting jumped because she's slow. So, being able to duel is important, and this could be a big difference, especially with, you know, your favorite Diao-chan mains who have 1,000 games played on her. Because now you can Chilling Frost, you hit them with not only the Chilling Frost, you root them, and if you're good, you already have a Diamond Dust on the ground. That's a guaranteed freeze, and then you get another one off. So that's quite the combo there.
And hopefully they're dead by the time they thaw out, or they're going to be really mad.
But then you just hit him with another Chilling Frost by that time, because it's been 5 seconds. Anyway, something like that. Alright, let's move on to Preda. So, again, I had thoughts on this on the other patch notes, but attack speed bonus, 10% to 12% on Disciple of the Plague. Cooldown time is reduced by 5 seconds, which is nice because it was weirdly long for a part of his kit that was different. And the mana cost went down, which is not really a big deal. But my thoughts on this were, Preda was so weird. He had this like long-range nerf, or long-range, not nerf, nuke, sorry. Long-range nuke. And then he suddenly turns into a auto-attacker? And it's like, it seemed like if he was going to be this kind of dual identity mage, that the part of him, the other side of him, should be a greater, or you should see that side more often, right? It should actually be like a dual identity mage, not like a, well, I'm this most of the time, but sometimes I auto attack. It's like, to make a whole lot of sense. So reducing the cooldown is nice, and then actually being able to attack faster is good too. What do you think?
I think it's nice. I like Preda. I think he still needs an actual passive. But it is nice to see that ultimate get tuned up a bit, because you're right in that it was weirdly long, especially since it's the only way he could really fight outside of harassing. Yeah. That said, I have seen people play Preda very well, so it'll be interesting to see more Preda players, or Praetors, if you will.
I want to see it reduced to like 30, 25, 20 seconds, and then but nerf the ult itself, so that you're constantly like switching between nuking and auto attacking. But this is decent as well, because 30 seconds with some CDR, maybe you can get on to like 20 seconds, so it could be something. But yeah.
I gotcha. I can't quite like think of a theoretical now, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. In any case, Preda is still a weird guy. He's like, first of all, everyone thought he was a girl at first when they heard Preda, so it's kind of jarring when you hear the voice at first. Let's just put that out there. Anyway, let's move on. Yorn. So Sunboy. Raised his armor, raised his HP, lowered his attack speed, and lowered his attack per level. And they also lowered the damage on Fierce Shot after you do the math. So, let's talk about the math. The damage is 20 more at level 1, depending on Arcana, but it's about 80 less when you're fully built with about 700 damage. Now, that's per shot. So that means that you're doing 100 more damage. Is it 4 shots or 5 shots? Isn't it 5? Or is it 4? I think it's...
shot? Yeah. So this is the wrong icon that you put on this right here. Fear shot is 1 hit.
No, I'm talking about the passive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, Fear Shots is passive. I just got
mixed up because the icons are switched around on some of these.
Are you sure?
Yeah, Heavenly Barrage is wrong.
Okay, well, we'll fix that.
They're wrong in our database, which is part of the reason.
Oh. Well, we screwed up. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, Fierce Shot is every 5th consecutive attack triggers a burst of arrows, each one dealing 75. And how many? Is it 4 arrows or 5?
5.
Right. So it does 100 damage more now in the early game, but 400 less in the late game. Now it seems like kind of a nerf, but it takes forever to get to a full build, and oftentimes your team will be dead before that, and it will be largely your fault. So having the extra damage early is actually a big deal, and it really helps them scale up, as I've seen in some of the pro matches, which they have been picking Yorn. Also, having the casting time reduced is nice as well, and having the Barrage being on a slightly lower cooldown in the early game. So this is all geared toward making Yorn less useless in the early game when he does not much.
Yeah. Our stance on Yorn has long been, he's very good if you are very good with him. Now he's going to be pretty good if you're pretty good with him. Because
No, go ahead.
Yeah. The increases to his defense are very nice for someone who is not good at running away.
Yeah, exactly. They could increase his movement speed, but no, that's not useful. By the way, don't point out to the crowd that our icons are wrong. You can say that afterward. They wouldn't have noticed.
No, sorry. I thought we were just going to edit that part out.
I'm too lazy to I'm too lazy to edit this. Especially
okay. Well then, some behind the scenes there.
Okay. All right. Tel. She has one of the biggest changes, even though it's just one note. So, in case you guys don't know, combined, the physical damage and magic damage was 1.1 AD. Now before, 1.0 of that went to physical, and then they tacked on the 0.1 AD plus this base damage of magic damage. So the description was different, right? It's like, okay, this is additional damage on top of the damage that she does. Now, the description is different. It's not, they don't put the additional tag on there, which never gets crit benefits. Now it says attacks deal this much physical damage and the same amount of magic damage. And they're split 0.55, so they're split evenly. Now, the only situation in which this is worse is against monsters, because they have the same magic defense and armor. So you will technically be doing less damage to them, because your physical damage will go down once you pop Eagle Eye. But when you attack heroes, they have almost always less magic defense, especially at the beginning of the game, and so it will hurt more. But the biggest point is that now you can build crits, and you can crit magic damage, which hurts a lot. So you can basically have a second mage or another half mage essentially on your team if you get tel'annas and you build her with that that crit. Also, her HP went up, which is nice.
It's very nice. This will also change her build some, because she will be relying less on attack pierce items like Muramasa and Rank Breaker. Since now half of her attacks naturally ignore armor because they're magic. So it'll also make it to where she's a more unique mage to build. I guess this would also mean that she can't really build lifesteal either. All around, it'll lead to her having a much more unique identity.
Well, it's not like she can't. She could build Bow of Slaughter, and then having the 100% will still help her a bit.
True, it's 100%. It'd be about the same as half of her damage, so it'd be kind of like to the beasts.
Still not bad. You could, if you were kind of this is kind of niche, but you could build Rhea's Blessing. The shield would be very small because you don't. It gets bigger based on AP, and you only have that as your AP. But if you don't know, magic lifesteal is different from normal lifesteal. Lifesteal only benefits from auto attacks. Magic lifesteal benefits from any sort of damage that you do that deals magic, including weird auras. So Rhea's Blessing will work on her, and you can get all that magic damage back. And the magic damage crits will most likely be doing more than the physical damage because, like we mentioned, they have less magic defense. So, weird last item maybe is Rhea's Blessing if you have the money for that. Otherwise, a better item for her would be something like Enchanted Kicks. So if you want to maximize the magic damage, because again, this scales based on AD, not AP. So it's not going to help you building AP in order to build this up, but it will help by getting Magic Pierce. So I would, just off the top of my head, like we meant, this is actually hard to build her, but I would, you don't have to completely ignore physical damage, but you could go attack speed first off, so you go Blitzblade, and then maybe Enchanted Kicks or War Boots, go to Clavis Sancti, go into Slick Sting, and then at that point, I guess there's Fenrir's. Just go Fenrir's, or maybe if you want to have like every single shot be a crit, that you could go Devil's Handshake, but then you go Blade of Eternity last, so it's a lot of damage in that case, and you are just chunking magic.
Quite a bit. I would say that either Fenrir's or Blade of Eternity is almost necessary now, since those benefit both attack and magic.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. We're talking about the passives, by the way.
Yeah. But yeah, she will be very interesting. And as someone who likes tel'annas, I am looking forward to try it.
Yeah, it's a change, but it's definitely a buff. Because before she was just kind of blah, and now she has a very unique identity, and it will hurt. And people will not see it coming, because people don't read patch notes. But you did, because you clicked on this video. Anyway.
Good for you. You're my favorite listener.
All right, let's
Don't
go.
tell the others.
All right, let's move on to Valheim. This is a September 11th change. His attack speed went down. The duration of the yellow glaive stun on the passive only went down by 0.25 seconds. So all those people clamoring for his passive to be nerfed, here we go. Also, all the base damage of the glaives went from 100 plus 12 to 80 plus 10. Now, if you don't know, each glaive does a different amount of damage. So the red glaive actually scales more than the other glaives based on your AP and AD. But this base damage was the same across the board. So you'll be doing less damage on all your glaives. Now, it's not that much of a nerf, but this, I write here that this combined with just players learning how to play and deal with the sideline Valheim a bit better has meant that Valheim has dropped from his lofty heights of 100% pick bam. And we don't want to say I told you so, but we told you so, because he's not. It just took people some time to deal with him. Everyone clamoring for him to be in tier S. I'm sorry.
Yep, there he goes. Your chance is gone.
He's still tier 1 though, so you can still play.
No, he's still strong and annoying.
Right. Okay, let's move on to the Joker. Now the Joker got an interesting nerf last time, where if you went in with canned laughter, you can still get damage during that time, and I admittedly underestimated that change because playing some Joker, it's very annoying to die on the way to someone. There's a lot of escapes that I didn't realize I couldn't pull off anymore after that. So to buff him again, now he gets a massive attack speed boost 4 seconds after casting canned laughter. So yeah, if you're not dead already, he just smacks you in the face. And if he didn't use pick a card, any card to run up to you, then he will have it there to avoid your damage while he finishes you off.
Yeah, and it's weird because it seems off considering the rest of his kit being shoot once and then run away. Now it's wanting him to stand and fight for a little bit, which has never been a big thing with the Joker.
Right. That said, though, he does build only attack damage, and I think with effects like these, there's still a cap. Like for instance, if you have 40% CDR and you get a Sage buff, it doesn't go up to 50%. There's just capped completely. All effects are not immune to the cap. So this helps Joker a lot. He never actually has to build attack speed to get the benefits of attack speed, and he can have his cake and eat it too because he still has attack damage. So you build AD, like you always do with Joker, and then you try to kill someone. If they're a tank, they survive through it, you keep attacking them, they get chunked down, maybe they die. If they're, if it's like early game, where you can't quite one-shot someone yet, like a squishy, then use your canned laughter, and then afterward you can get that 50% attack speed. So I think it'll help him a lot. Alright, Violet.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, don't make a mistake and start building more crit on him because of this, because I don't think it'll be as effective as just sticking to the previous builds.
Yeah, exactly. That's not going to help. All right, Violet, she lost 58 damage off her tentacle fire. Amazing. Let's move on.
Rip.
The bigger nerf too is the Soul Reaver. Anyway, Wisp. So Wisp's attack, her base attack went up, and the damage on loose cannon went down, even though the base damage looks like it went up. This 0.280 here is a big deal. So we did the math, and it's a nerf for her across the board, or it's a nerf for her in the early game, which is a nerf for her throughout the game because she's just going to continue to build AD. for loose cannon. But that's the only other this and the splash damage are the only two things that are nerfed about Wisp. Now they moved the damage to other areas, or not. They didn't move the damage. They basically nerfed this part so they could make her less clunky in other areas. So the cooldown time is lessened. It makes her a little bit more Violet-like, and that she can get her enhanced auto attacks off more often and be able to use her escape. Her barrel bomb goes faster, which you can actually hit people now, because barrel bomb was very hard to use before. And now shock and awe actually slows people, which is huge because you know how Arena of Valor likes to turn into a game of circles, and this is one more that will keep them there. So.
And it will. One of the things about shock and awe is when you saw it before, you would just step out. This will at least keep people inside and punish them more for letting themselves get caught or not paying attention to Wisp. I would like to see her used more because I like seeing many people being used, especially for a bit. In the game, it was, if you don't pick Violet, you're going to pick Lendis. And then Valheim was like, can I join the party? And Tencent was like, well, you are our favorite.
Yeah, so this is really good for Wisp. And I know people were legitimately complaining about her damage going down, but this is a buff. Making her easier to use is a buff. And this will make her ceiling go higher as well, because if you can do more stuff with her, then if you're good, you can be even better with her than the people who just got slightly better with her, if that makes any sense. So yeah, much less clunky, should be better. Alright, Pyrrha. So, Pyrrha, Healing Light was nerfed, even though the base numbers went up. Let me just check my math for a second here. Okay, so the cutoffs for Pyrrha are at 833 HP loss at level 1 and 3,166 HP loss at level 15. The old version heals more. And that's not a lot of health if you look at how much health people normally have. So, Healing Light, better at higher health now, worse at lower health, which makes it harder to save someone from a sticky situation. You're going to have to use it more preemptively and heal them beforehand, which is difficult because Healing Light's an extremely long cooldown. Nature's Rally got a straight nerf. The stun went down, and the armor per level went down by a lot. It went down by 95 at level 12. So I don't know why they needed to nerf Pyrrha so hard. She was being picked a lot in professional leagues, but it wasn't like she was overpowering. And now our favorite deer is yeah, she's weaker.
Yeah, and it's a shame because she just got buffed into being pickable. Now they're like, no, we hate her. Go away.
The one thing that happened though is that people were so unused to seeing Pyrrha that even after the buff, people were like, what are you doing? Why are you... Because people are stubborn. What are you doing? Why are you picking Pyrrha? It's so bad. And I heard on Reddit that was an issue. In gold, plat, and even diamond, perhaps. Where people just didn't know any better. And didn't realize how big of the buff it was. But, now that they've seen her, maybe they won't flame people for picking her. So, hopefully that helps.
Yeah. She got nerfed, so people will blame people less.
Yeah, because they've seen... People are weird. When they don't see a hero, and they see her all of a sudden like, oh, it's gotta be terrible, I will get mad at you. But when they see a hero...
I shake my fist in rage.
But when they see a hero, it's like, oh, that's fine. I've seen that person before. Makes me comfortable. Okay, move on. Wukong. Shadow Clone went from 15 seconds to 12 seconds early game. Why didn't know why it was 15 seconds in the first place? It's really long, especially for a jungler. And Monkey Business, the stealth effect removes slow effects. So now he can actually run away instead of being stuck there when he uses Monkey Business. If you guys don't know, when you use your ult, a few patches ago they buffed it so whether you can stealth and come out of it and leave. So now you can actually leave.
Yeah, and it'll be nice to have a counter to getting slowed, much like Butterfly, who also used to suffer from get in and kill or just die.
Yeah, or both. Get in, kill, and like, oh, I guess this is where I die.
At least I got you first.
All right, so good change. Ari went from warrior to assassin, which makes for differences in the abyssal buff, and the assassin buffs are pretty nuts. So that's kind of a buff for her. They're better than the warrior buffs. And her base attributes, she has more damage and less armor. So kind of going all in on her kind of killing potential. It's small enough that you can affect that with Arcana, so it's not that big of a deal. But if you really liked AD Irie, then you got even stronger. So, well, AD Arcana. My general preference for DS laners or side laners is to just build AD Arcana and then build armor items, because they're more useful for melee heroes usually. Since attack items, it's like, well, I don't need this crit, so what am I doing with this? But yeah.
It's very odd that they changed her to an assassin. Like, the change is weird. Like, obviously, her design is supposed to be an assassin. However, people have been playing her like a warrior, and they say, oh, so we're going to change her to being an assassin. But the only changes are they raised her attack and lowered her armor, which sounds like it makes sense. But now people are just are more incentivized to build defense items, because that's one less bit of attack less. I said less twice. That they need to buy.
Shame on you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If I was a professional writer, that would be extremely embarrassing.
But yeah, I agree. It's kind of weird. They did affect you, which is now 1 second instead of 1.25 seconds. So that's a slight change. I mean, she's not a super stunner. It makes her more assassin-like in that regard, but yeah, it's fine. It does make her a bit easier to jungle as well, because you have that extra attack damage. You can get through the jungle a bit quicker. And the game kind of needs junglers. Watching pro matches, they run out of ideas. Kil'Groth has fallen off the wayside. And not that they're not trying it, it's just fallen flat on his face every time they've tried it. So yeah, I would like to see Ari in the jungle a little bit more going forward. As Crickneck is... they banned Crickneck, and then teams were like, what do we do?
Of course, they need to start running Ignis jungle.
Yes, let's do it. Okay. Alright. Yeah, let's move on. Zephys, his mana went down. He's gotten better mostly because people have used marksman junglers less. But this is nice, I guess. He was too reliant on mana, so sure, that's good.
Yeah, he was one of those heroes that all throughout the game he needed the blue buff.
Yeah, and if you're playing side lane Zephys, if you ever played side lane Zephys, which I'm not going to tell you not to, but if you do,
don't do it.
If you do, you have to buy 2 pendants of faith. You don't be that guy who's like, I can play side lane Zephys and don't build mana and you're like, I need this buff. It's like, no, just build the pendants, dude. Anyway, sorry.
Or better, don't play side lane Zephys. I'll be that guy. Put him in the jungle where he belongs.
Well, I've seen worse. I've seen Wukongs in the side lane, Cricknecks in the side lane. I'm like, please, it hurts my eyes.
Stop. I want to sleep tonight.
Okay. Crickneck, you got a tiny nerf. He's still the best jungler, or the best assassin jungler. Arguably the best jungler. He just crushes people. So, yeah. And we're almost certainly moving into tier S next tier list, so yeah.
Oh, yeah.
People were actually complaining, why did they nerf Crickneck? Like, could you look at the numbers? It's like...
No, it's crazy. He can just absolutely blow people up.
But, no, people were mad that they nerfed Crickneck. It's like, Crickneck didn't need a nerf, what the hell? It's like 1 damage. Come on, chill out.
Yeah. 50 damage and 0.05 additional AD.
It's not even AD, it's additional AD. So,
yeah. That's going to affect less than 100 damage per drone drop, which you're not even spamming.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's like... It's less than 100. It's like less than 80, actually, if you think about it, because it's like 5% of additional AD. It's it's tiny. All right, Baldum, his wild charge, it scales higher off of armor and damage. So this is a straight buff because it's actually a pretty huge buff in late game because you get the 425 over 400. But even in the early game, it's a buff because your base armor and AD outweighs it. So it's just a straight buff throughout the game. It also helps him build AD and scale that way. So like things like Mental Aura will help you even more. Wild Stomp got a slight buff as well. And I mean slight because it's very slight.
2 armor.
Nice. And 5 in the late game. He gets 1 more scaling per level. Bottom's bad still. I'm sorry. Wild Charge needs to be like a 6-second cooldown for Bottom to be good. He just runs across the map like Max's left off. He's like, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. Oh my goodness. Yeah, sorry. Don't build Bottom. Don't use Bottom still, guys. Sorry.
We already said it. Pure is our favorite deer.
And yep, that's our favorite tree. So. All right, moving on. Slims. This is, I believe, which one? I think this is the September 11th one. Anyway, it hasn't really affected Taiwan or Thailand all that much, so don't worry about it. Slight nerfs all around. It's fine. It also makes his flying spear, it kind of goes all in on what his flying spear does. It's less useful in the early game, or less useful at short distances, more useful at large distances. What they were trying to do and what they wrote in the Taiwanese patch notes is that they wanted to make it so that he couldn't just spear someone from point blank and get away. And
yeah, that was annoying when you're an assassin. He'd just be like, haha, and run away.
Yeah. So now you get a higher stun and you get higher movement speed at full range, which that would that would be very painful if you got hit by a full range spear, because I believe it's like 2 seconds. It's so oppressive. And then he comes running at you with 80% movement speed and you're like, oh god.
Oh no. Oh no.
But yeah. The point blank one is not going to be as bad. He won't get as much movement speed, and this wasn't written in the Tencent or the Garena patch notes, but it was in the Taiwan one, so I believe it's going to come through. The stun at close range has gone down to 0.5 from 0.7, so yeah, it won't be as bad.
So start jumping on him all the more.
Nice. Lubu. So
this was not needed. This is excessive.
2 patch. Oh. Who was that? Taku?
That was Shinoda.
Oh, that's funny. Actually, that didn't sound like them. Anyway, we're talking behind our employees' or our colleagues' backs. Anyway, so 2 patches ago, Lubu got a nerf to his, what's it called? His first ability. To Red Stallion. Red Stallion. There you go. So you got a nerf. It seemed like a small nerf. It went from 350 units to 300. But since he uses it 3 times, that ends up being a larger nerf than people realized. So they tried to buff him last patch by giving his Conqueror 50% resistance, which is ridiculous. And then people still weren't using Lubu, even though I would argue he was useful, because pros were already using the other DS laners, and also Omen's amazing. So yeah, the people weren't practicing Lubu. He was just kind of out of the mind, and players watch pros, so they weren't using him either. And Tencent's based in China, and they said we can't have that. Lubu is a war hero in our country.
Our Superman.
Exactly. So they gave him this thing on an extra passive, like, oh, here, Prey doesn't have a passive, but you get 2. You get 2 passives anytime he's an ability. And by the way, Red Stallion is 3 abilities in one. So 1 use of Red Stallion and 1 use of Impale, and you have 40% attack speed off of 2 abilities. Oh, it's really good. It's really good. And now Lubu's nuts. So Yeah. In the few games I've seen of him in pro games, he has beaten Omen. Obviously, a lot of that is on player skill, but it's terrifying.
No, yeah, this is just vicious.
Okay, Wonder Woman. She was slightly below the very top DS liner, so now she got a slight buff, which should satisfy their DC contract. Yeah, no.
Yeah. No one shall fall below tier 2.
She wasn't even in tier 2. She was in tier 1 or S. They're just like no. Anyway, let's move on. Emily, combo went down to 6 seconds. Fine. Enrage. Movement speed boost went up. Fine. Damage block is the biggest thing by far here, because in case you guys don't know, every this number here applies to every instance of damage that comes to her. That includes auras. I believe that includes both instances of damage when it says additional damage, if I'm not mistaken. So it reduces a lot of damage, and they've basically buffed it from being like 20%, like the same as Xannis at 400 damage, to the same as Xannis at like 500 damage. So basically, it's better than Xannis' ult in every single way. And I know I'm comparing her to Xannis, but she was the rest of her kit's already better. So it's nuts. And this is
Donga hates her. She can just walk through his abilities and not even care.
Yeah, exactly. Every poison ability just does nothing to her now. And this is after armor and magic defense effect as well. So if you have like 500 damage and it gets reduced to 300 by armor, now it gets reduced to 200, and what you thought was going to hurt her a lot does very little. And that's every single
instance. Reduced to 0 by a blade boot in your face.
Exactly. So yeah, people haven't been using Amelie much, partly because she's difficult to use. But we just saw Liang beat Sun, who is arguably the best DS laner in the world. And he was playing Richter, who is 100% pick ban, and like first ban, people don't want to even deal with him in the GCS. And Liang basically out-dueled him. So, oh, by the way, Liang's good, but Liang's really good, but it just goes to show you that Amelie might be low-key extremely good going forward. So practice your Amelie and kill fools in the ladder.
Before the nerfs come.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a slow burn, though. I think people aren't really looking at this buff like it's a big deal. The big flashy ones are like the Ignis, where you see all these like line after line after line of change. This one's
a million fireballs.
Yeah, this one's a lot more subtle. So I feel like it could take months, literally, before anyone even notices Amelie. And then that would probably have to be off the back of someone like a pro using him really well in the tournament. Although Liang has already gotten that started a little bit. But yeah, it's if you practice your Amelie, just telling you, if you practice your Amelie, you could get a lot of easy wins, as Tencent might not nerf this one for a while. Okay, Roxy. So they changed her from a warrior to a tank, which is a kind of a big deal, because before the Abyssal buff didn't do anything for her, because it increases your, I think it was either your pierce or her attack damage, something like that, but it just did nothing for her because she's magic damage. So now she's a tank, which increases her HP regen, which is better. And that was from September, by the way. And the most recent patch, or this one, I guess it's the same thing for this one, they really just stuck it to her HP per level.
This is after they did it last time as well.
Yeah, they did it twice in a row. So they don't really want her to be as tanky as she is. And it looks like a big, I mean, it is a big difference. But they made Agni's Grasp ridiculous. So it is like Snare, like Arm's Snare, except you can actually move while using it. And not only that, it refreshes the cooldown of Blazing Shield. So you can Blazing Shield in, use Agni's Grasp, and Blazing Shield out. So you're just like zoom in, grab him, like, hey, I'm picking you up, by the way, and zoom out, put him under your tower or under your team, and they almost always die. They are screwed. Now the damage is reduced, but that doesn't matter because if you have any sort of backup, they will die. Doesn't matter how tanky they are, because they are getting. Yeah. It's basically like a Grak pull, but worse, because you're just stuck there, and you cannot get out of it, no matter what. No matter if you.
Yeah, resistance doesn't affect it anymore. You can't cleanse it. You can't ask nicely. It's just all around a better ability.
Yeah.
You weren't really using Agni's Grasp for the damage anyway, so they could completely remove that, and I don't think it would have mattered much.
Well, I like it because before you could win a 1v1 matchup in lane with it, and it did actually do a lot of damage. And if you include the flames with it as well, the wildfire, then you could just Agni's Grasp on one, not even have a tower there, and kill them, which was not good, I think. So they made her more of a team fight hero, and they made it so that you can't just kill someone with Agni's Grasp. You need to like actually pull them into your team or under a tower or something else. And I think overall these changes are good, because before Roxy, you just turn on Wildfire and any old idiot could play Roxy. You just turn on Wildfire, you fight, and they're dead because they can't do anything about it because she's healing and they're standing in your fire. Now she has a higher ceiling, but also a higher floor. Right? She's better, but you need to actually be good to play her. And you see that in the GCS. She's getting like first pick, first ban a lot. Because the pros, as it turns out, are good at this game, and she's nuts in their hands and just completely turns games around. So, if you're playing Roxy and you don't like her and she doesn't feel very good anymore, maybe you should practice.
I know I am.
Alright, Max, this is a reversion of other patches. Before, he did, before it was 10%, but the max was 50%. And now it's 6%, or they changed it to 60%, and that obviously made the max 30%, but now they mixed it together and did a compromise, so you get more movement speed per unit, but the max is still only 30%. And as a max main, this is very welcome because it felt like it wasn't doing anything at all when I was using Bionic Blender on minions. Now I get my zoom back.
It's much easier to hit max.
Yeah, that was almost the fruit was so low hanging it was like on the ground already. All right, Ormar, Gut Punch. It's longer now. It's good. That's his passive, by the way. His passive is so weird. We don't even know how it works. We tried to test it, but we still don't get it.
Well, because it has a cooldown, and it's completely RNG.
Right.
It's like one of the only completely RNG things as far as character mechanics go.
Yeah. The thing is, it says 4-second internal cooldown, but we've had it multiple times proc immediately afterward. And we don't know why.
Yeah.
It's we don't know. Anyway, it's better now. So you can use armor again. Okay. Tara. People seem to not know what the heck this is. So let us tell you. Before, whenever she used an ability, it recovered 3% of lost HP. Now, it recovers 6% of lost HP. That's really good. That's nearly broken. To make up for that, she uses 8% of her current HP. And these words, see, current and lost, are a really big deal. Because it may seem like, oh, she uses 8%, but loses... Or she loses 8% but gains 6%. That's minus 2%. That's bad. Like, no. It's good to lose the damage because the other part of her passive says that she deals more damage as she loses health. So she's purposely damaging herself so she can deal more damage to her opponent in the DS lane. But when she gets
kinky.
But when she takes more damage, she actually heals more than before this change. If you're under 40% health, then the amount you're healing will be more than you lose, right? And at very low health, you will heal more than you did before the patch. And this makes her much more interesting to use rather than just being, like Tara was literally, I attack you and I stay alive, and that's all I do. And now you have to manage how you use your abilities in order to kill your opponent, and it's a much more interesting dynamic in my opinion. I also think it's a buff. And we've had people thinking, like, I don't get it, she's so bad now. I was like, no, I think it's a buff.
But Deusser said she's F tier.
Okay, we weren't gonna bring up Deusser. But
oh, well, I'm sorry. I didn't say that then.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna put this lightly, but I don't think he understands what the passive means. So, yeah, because it doesn't make any sense for him to drop it from A to F with no evidence like pro matches that she's good or bad. Anyway, forget we said that. Let's move on.
Yeah. Oops.
Okay. Kil'Groth. He got a tiny buff. I don't think there's much to say here. He's still like S tier, by the way. He's been extremely good, especially in the GCS, where he's a nice counter, not counter, but a way to match Omen and Lubu. So yeah, not much to say here. Thane. He got a movement speed increase, and this royal power going from 6 seconds to 4 seconds is actually a buff because he heals the same amount, but just under a smaller time frame. And he gets damage reduction while it's active, which is about the same as, let me just look this up. Did the math earlier. It's 200 armor, magic defense, true damage defense, whatever you want to call it. So he's better. His kit is still kind of clunky, but usually in your ladder games, his butt should be big enough that you can soak all that damage and be kind of a hybrid Toro and actually useful CC machine.
Well, the only thing I want to see changed about him is get his push to be one smooth push instead of a whole bunch of mini pushes.
Yeah. Yeah, we can all dream. But yeah, we've seen him use in pro games. It's been decent. But yeah, he'll definitely be better on ladder because people can't help themselves attacking the frontliner, and then they'll see he's low on health and be like, "Oh, he's almost dead," and they'll attack him, and then they don't realize that he has damage reduction and he's healing, and then while you're trying to kill him, you get killed because he won't die and the other team is attacking you. So, Thane, new debate master, perhaps. All right, last and definitely not least. Arthur's a simple man. He gets one line. It's not even a line. It's like half a line. And yet it's a massive buff.
And it's only a number change.
Yeah. It's like, what should we make this 2 into? 6? Nah, make it an 8. Let's do that.
Arthur does not believe in 2. He only believes in 8. 3 8s.
Oh my goodness. That's 90 plus 96 armor at level 1. Because again, it's per level, so yeah, it's nuts. Well, I might be wrong on that, but the point is it's a lot of armor. He's going to be very chunky.
A stupendous amount of armor. That's basically his passive is now where it is at like level 7.
Yeah.
At level 1.
Yeah, so my advice to you is to build a lot of AD in your Arcana and just destroy people in duels in lane, in the DS lane. At the late stages of the game, his base armor is actually on par with very, very tanky tanks. So it's not going to be ridiculous late game. I mean, it's still pretty ridiculous, but it's going to make the biggest difference in the early game where he's just like, you can't kill him.
So use mages against Arthur.
Yeah, if you're in a draft,
a lot of armor pierce.
If you're in a draft and you see Arthur, just slam that Marja.
Marja, or now tel'annas can deal with him if you're looking for a marksman.
Yeah, but I don't think you want to have tel'annas in the DS lane. But that is true. You can, if in general you just wanted to deal with him. All right, that is our review. Make sure you check out this article as well. Check out our other thoughts on it. Just go to Samurai Gamers in general, where we continuously have the goods for you guys, whether it be guides, articles, esports news, what have you. We will have new articles coming up on, or the stats pages and whatnot for Richter coming up soon. For, who else? Elsu coming up soon. Have you seen videos on Elsu? It's nuts.
I have. It's very interesting.
I literally saw the first 20 seconds of a AHQ Rush video playing Elsu, and I almost puked. He hit one snipe, and I was like, oh my god. He just hit him from like across the map, and it was like a third of that person's health. That poor person. Oh my goodness. I'm already scared.
Is he really from oh crap, not Metal Slug. It looked like Contra.
Yeah.
There's some okay. I didn't realize he was a tie-in character.
Well, I don't know. I just kind of was saying yeah for continued conversation. that wasn't a confirmation. But watching game, it didn't feel like a MOBA anymore. I'll say that. It felt like a different game. In any case, look forward to that. Make sure you check out the site. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
All right. Ciao.